Coming up on this Friday edition of Newsline at Noon, Britain's parliament rejects military action against the Syrian government for last week's chemical attack, but U.S. officials say President Obama is prepared to go ahead with limited military strikes. In the latest development in the sedition scandal surrounding the ultra-left-wing Unified Progressive Party, prosecutors seek an arrest warrant for lawmaker Lee Seok-ki on charges of plotting to topple the government. Plus, the defense chief of Southeast Asian nations and their allies call on North Korea to give up its nuclear arms and fulfill its international obligations. These stories and more on Newsline at Noon.
Where's the best place for bibimbap?
Les Jeux Olympiques d'hiver se dérouleront-ils à Pyeongchang?
هل أنتم حقاً سابع أكبر مصدر في العالم؟
この歌手は誰ですか？你好，最近哪部电视剧的人气最旺？
Korea is attracting interest from around the world. The more you know, the more you want to know. Dynamic Korea.
Thanks for joining us. You're watching Newsline at Noon. I'm Choi Yuson here in Seoul.
Good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. British lawmakers have voted down a government attempt to secure provisional authorisation for military intervention in Syria. British Prime Minister David Cameron has said he got Parliament's decision and would not order an attack.
Undeterred, the United States is still expected to take unilateral action against Syria for the Assad regime's alleged use of chemical weapons near Damascus. Connie Lee has more.
In an unexpected turn of events on Thursday, Prime Minister David Cameron and his coalition government failed to win authorization for military action in Syria by 13 votes.
The ayes to the right, 272. The noes to the left, 285. So the noes have it, the noes have it.
Cameron said he would not override Parliament's decision.
It is very clear tonight that while the House has not passed a motion, it is clear to me that the British Parliament, reflecting the views of the British people, does not want to see British military action. I get that, and the government will act accordingly.
Cameron had been pushing with U.S. President Barack Obama for military action on Syria to punish the Assad regime for allegedly launching a chemical weapons attack last week that killed hundreds of civilians near Damascus. In the U.S., national security officials admitted on Thursday that they have no, quote, smoking gun that proves Assad personally ordered the chemical attacks. Despite this, Obama's aides say the president is ready to move ahead with a limited military strike against Syria without British support or an endorsement from the United Nations Security Council. President Obama still hasn't made a final decision on the matter, but it could come once UN officials investigating the chemical attack leave Syria on Saturday. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Prosecutors here in Korea are seeking an arrest warrant for lawmaker Lee Seok-ki of the ultra-left Unified Progressive Party for conspiring to subvert the government. The National Intelligence Service has submitted a transcript of Lee and the so-called revolutionary organization's clandestine meeting as evidence. Oh Jin-ju has the latest.
The National Intelligence Agency has uncovered what could be one of the country's most serious political crimes in modern history. Prosecutors are seeking an arrest warrant for Lee Seok-ki of the minor opposition Unified Progressive Party and 3 other party members on charges of plotting a rebellion and violating the national security law. Lee has denied the charges. Now, as it requires parliamentary approval to arrest a lawmaker during a National Assembly session, the matter will likely be put on a vote as early as Monday. The left-leaning lawmaker has been accused of conspiring to blow up the country's major facilities, such as communication centers and oil storage tanks, police stations, and armory, with members of a secret organization called Revolutionary Organization, or RO, in May. A tape recording obtained by the spy agency shows that E and RO members discussed detailed ways to sabotage the South Korean government and U.S. troops in the event of an inter-Korean war. E also urged the organization members to prepare a political and military war to topple the South Korean government, according to the transcript of the tape recording. He also added that it would be an honor to take a leading role in the revolution for reunification. A discussion about war preparation follows E's comments. One of the arrested party officials says they could get information from the internet on how to make homemade bombs and even guns to arm themselves. He went on to say it would be most effective to attack communications, railway, and oil facilities in case of a war, saying security at these places are not that strict. Early on Friday, the spy agency concluded a second round of raid on E's office. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News.
Military chiefs from 18 countries in the Asia-Pacific region wrapped up their second ASEAN defense ministers meeting in Brunei on Thursday. Participating members agreed on the need for a nuclear-free Korean peninsula, urging North Korea to abide by its international obligations. Our defense ministry correspondent Han Da-eun reports.
North Korea's missile and nuclear threats were one of the key agenda items at the two-day ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus in Brunei. Recognizing the security threats Pyongyang poses the region, defense ministers from South Korea, the U.S., China, Japan, and 14 other nations in the Asia-Pacific region issued a joint declaration that called for the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. The declaration also indirectly urged North Korea to fully comply with UN restrictions, but the words North Korea were not stated. Military chiefs of several nations, including South Korea, the U.S., and Russia, expressed grave concerns over North Korea's nuclear threats through their keynote speech. South Korean Defense Minister Kim Kwan-jin reiterated the security risks Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs pose to the world and urged ASEAN member nations to join hands in urging the North to abide by its international obligations.
There was international consensus on the need to denuclearize North Korea, and China has also agreed.
South Korea and China, meanwhile, agreed to further expand military cooperation. On the sidelines of the meeting, Minister Kim and his Chinese counterpart Chang Wan-chuan reconfirmed the importance of bilateral military exchanges, which include establishing a military hotline between the two ministers. Vowing to participate in various military events in their respective countries, Chang also agreed to visit Seoul next year. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
South Korea is likely to choose Boeing's F-15 Silent Eagle as its next fighter jet, as it's the only jet that comes within Seoul's budget of some $7.4 billion. The Defense Acquisition Program Administration said Thursday that it cannot go ahead with its plan to purchase 60 jets if the price exceeds the budget, effectively weeding out Lockheed Martin's F-35 and EADS Eurofighter. The procurement agency has come under fire for its selection process, with critics saying it's put too much emphasis on price instead of the jet's combat capabilities.
Despite the government's forecast, the economy will pick up speed in the latter half of the year. New data shows the economic recovery is still very wobbly, with recruitment feared hovering at a level not seen since the height of the global financial crisis in 2009. Yulian reports.
Slumping industrial output and a weak job market are casting a long shadow over the economy. New numbers from Statistics Korea show that mining and manufacturing dropped by 0.1% in July, reversing from a 0.6% gain in June. The report attributed the fall to the faltering manufacturing industry. Although production for semiconductors and foodstuff rose by over 7% and 2% respectively, output for cars, machinery, and oil products all fell in July from a month earlier. Also, it seems the country is some time away from seeing improvement in the job market. A survey by job portal website Incruit showed that of the country's 777 major companies contacted, only 36% said that they are planning to recruit new employees in the second half of the year. That's close to the 35% seen back in the second half of 2009, when the country was suffering from the global financial crisis. Smaller companies are struggling more than the nation's major conglomerates. About half of the conglomerates said they will recruit in the second half of the year, while only 38% of well-established mid-sized companies and 33% of SMEs said they have recruitment plans. This is expected to lead to unbalanced recruitment among these companies, with the conglomerates expected to take up over 60% of the newly employed.
The recovery is being delayed because of the prolonged economic slump. There's uncertainty in corporate management. That's why the job market is struggling.
With the grim job prospects and the manufacturing industry remaining in the doldrums, the Korean economy still has a number of challenges ahead. Yoon-An, Arirang News.
Koreans traveling overseas spent $10 billion through the end of July, a 13% increase from the previous year. The Korea Culture and Tourism Institute says more than 8.5 million Koreans traveled abroad in the cited period, up 9% from a year earlier. A weak Japanese yen and rising consumer prices were cited as the main reasons why Koreans chose to travel abroad. Meanwhile, overseas credit card spending rose to a record high in the second quarter. The Bank of Korea says Koreans' overseas credit card spending topped $2.5 billion in the April to June period.
For your fill of Korean and international news. Join Chae Yu-sun and Mark Broom every weekday at lunchtime. Newsline at Noon.
Plenary session this Wednesday and vote on the government restructuring bills.
Most of the radioactive water from the crippled Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan is expected to follow the current and spread into the Pacific Ocean. Experts say that small amounts of the radioactive water could be flowing into waters near Korea as early as next year, but that the effects will be minimal. Our Kim Min-ji tells us more.
The Crucio is a north-flowing ocean current on the western side of the North Pacific Ocean, and its strongest impact is on Korea and Japan. It flows from the Philippines and into the Korean Strait and northeastward past Japan. This simulation, created by a team of Korean and Chinese researchers, shows the likely flow of radioactive water from the Fukushima plant in Japan as carried by the Crucio current.
The radioactive water will merge with the strong currents of the Kuroshio and flow east. It could reach U.S. and Canadian waters in 4 to 5 years.
That's because the current eventually begins to flow towards the western waters of North America. These waters then merge with the North Equatorial Current, which later becomes the Crucio. The total process takes about 10 years to complete. This means that radioactive water from the Fukushima plant could begin flowing into Korean waters when the cycle is complete in 10 years. Experts, however, say that contaminated water could begin leaking into Korea's southern seas and the East Sea as early as next year. According to researchers, small amounts of radioactive water are likely to slip from the outer parts of the Crucio to merge into other currents that flow towards Korea. The amount, however, is minuscule at approximately 0.01 becquerels per unit area, which is about 1/200th of the world's total ocean area.
A small amount of radioactive water will flow into the Yellow and East Seas. However, the effects will be minimal.
The experts say that even if fish are exposed to the affected waters, the small amount of radioactive water will still make fish safe to consume.
Even if we consume fish that's been exposed to radioactive water, the effect will be extremely minute. The amount is nothing to worry about.
However, others have raised questions, saying that continuous inspections and monitoring are required, as the exact amount of radioactive water that has leaked into the ocean is unclear. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The U.S. economy grew at an annualized rate of 2.5% in the second quarter, boosted by robust exports and strengthening housing and business investment sectors. Second quarter growth beat estimates of 2.2%, and it was more than double the pace recorded in the first 3 months of the year. The Commerce Department says housing construction grew at an annual rate of almost 13%, the fourth consecutive quarter of double-digit growth. Business sentiment, investment was revised up to over 16%. Analysts say the positive data makes it more likely the Federal Reserve will begin tapering off its massive stimulus program later this year. All legally married gay couples in the U.S. will soon be able to enjoy the same federal tax benefits as married heterosexual couples. The U.S. Treasury ruling means a married homosexual couple in any U.S. state, regardless of whether the state recognizes gay marriage, will have access to the same benefits, responsibilities, and protections under federal tax law. The ruling becomes effective on September 16th. The new rules are expected to benefit 130,000 same-sex married couples in the U.S.
Graduation ceremonies are in full swing at colleges across the country, and one graduate in particular is making history by being the first foreigner to deliver a valedictorian speech at Seoul National University, one of Korea's most prestigious schools. Our Paulie shows us more.
It's been 7 years since Hong Yeon-ah came to Korea, and this special day marks the culmination of her hard work. Out of thousands of students, Hong was chosen to represent her graduating class at Seoul National University. It's been a nerve-wracking morning as she goes through her speech just one more time.
I want to come out having a beautiful appearance, and because of that, I feel like there's an even heavier burden on my shoulders.
The third-generation Korean Russian is the first foreign graduate to hold the honor of valedictorian in the faculty's century-long history.
I feel honored to stand here before you at this graduation ceremony as the representative valedictorian of some 2,400 graduates.
It's been a long journey for Hong, who was accepted to SNU 5 years ago after vowing to learn more about her cultural heritage.
Even though I am Korean, I've lived my life as a foreigner. I have made a promise to myself that someday I would travel to Korea no matter what.
Family and friends joined in to celebrate her incredible accomplishment. In her quest to discover her family roots, Hong admits it's been a challenge learning the Korean language and culture, but says she has never regretted her decision to do so.
To maintain one's cultural identity is difficult. There is not much information between my grandfather's generation and that of my own, and therefore I came because I wanted to know.
It's a huge milestone for the school and the nation, as Korea takes steps to embrace multiculturalism and the future diversity of its people.
Just as I did 7 years ago, today I have hopes and dreams for the future. And therefore, I have no fear for the future.
Paul Yi, Arirang News.
As the summer holiday season begins to wind down, Koreans are scrambling to take one last vacation before the cool autumn weather sets in. From fields of blooming flowers to wild water parks, our Na Hyung-kyung shows us the hottest family getaways.
Here in the town of Bongpyeong in central Gangwon province lies one of Korea's most beautiful landscapes. Entire fields stretching into the distance are covered in purple wildflowers called Korean starworts. Many families have made the long journey to this picturesque town to enjoy the remainder of their summer.
The summer weather has been really hot, but the cool breezes here are refreshing. It feels great that autumn seems to be getting underway.
Meanwhile, other families have chosen to beat the heat by heading to one of the nation's 14 major water theme parks. More than 8 million Koreans have made their way to the aquatic slides this year.
I was worried about taking a late vacation at the end of the summer, but the weather seems cooler now and the water feels great. It seems like a great time for the family to have fun in the sun.
Starting at the beginning of next month, the township of Pongpyeong will be hosting the Hyoseok Cultural Festival. The event commemorates modern Korean writer Lee Seok-ki, whose popular novels have spread the word about the blooming flowers here in his hometown. Among the brightest sights include the cosmos flower, which signals the start of the fall season.
Even though I went on holiday with my boyfriend a little late, the flowers and the scenery are wonderful. I feel like autumn will come soon after smelling the great fragrances.
Whether it's a romantic getaway or fun-filled family trip, the amazing natural views will create a lifetime of cherished memories. 나현경, Arirang News.
And in cultural news, the Korean National Ballet is now staging its own rendition of Don Quixote. The ballet company has updated some of the original 144-year-old choreography to give it a more modern flair. Our cultural correspondent Park Ji-won takes us there.
The Korean National Ballet is presenting a new production of the classical comic ballet Don Quixote through this Saturday. This light-hearted and exuberant ballet is based on Cervantes' epic masterpiece. But in this version of the classic Spanish novel, the beloved title characters, the delusional knight Don Quixote and his loyal companion Sancho Panza, are just playing supporting roles, and it's a love story between the young lovers Kitri and her suitor Basilio that takes center stage. Audiences can enjoy lavish Spanish dances in the first act and classical ballet in the second act during the scene of Don Quixote's dream. The final act, when the couple gets married, features the majestic grand pas de deux that's often staged at ballet galas. Most major ballet companies in the world have their own productions of Don Quixote, and the Korean National Ballet is no exception. This time, it's updated the original Marius Petipa choreography to reflect the fast-paced environment of modern Korea.
I think this new production is more loyal to the original ballet score, which splits one movement into multiple movements to better express the true color of the music.
This ballet shows off the lightest and most cheerful classical ballet dance moves out of numerous classical ballet pieces.
The ballet continues until this Saturday at the Seoul Arts Center in southern Seoul. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Let's now get an update on the weather with our weathercaster Lee Ji-hyun standing by. Good afternoon to you, Ji-hyun.
Happy Friday. Well, guys, there's one thing we missed this summer. Can you guess what it is?
Well, I know we had weeks and weeks of the rainy season and sweltering heat. What else is there now? A typhoon on the way?
Right, well, that sounds right. I was reading, actually, there's a tropical storm called Kong-rae that's developed between the northern Philippines and Taiwan, is now heading to Japan, but it's said that South Korea won't be affected. Is that right, Ji-hyun?
That's right. Well, South Korea is not expected to be hit by Kong-rae, but certain parts of Jeju are seeing rain and winds from the edge of it. It's not raining heavily, though. A wind advisor has been issued for waters off of Jeju. Well, back to today's forecast. It's the last Friday of August, and things have gotten much cooler. Our afternoon highs here in the central region should be similar to yesterday, but cooler readings expected for down south. And unlike the dark and gloomy sky we had yesterday, it's looking clear, especially for central region, as the sun tries to come out from behind the clouds. But we are looking at overcast skies here in the southern provinces with the lingering showers from this morning, but it's also gradually tapering off. Now, this weekend, we're going to enjoy a fair amount of sunshine with cooler readings in most regions, with the mercury staying below 30 degrees Celsius. Now, some of the cities in the south and Jeju might receive lingering showers tomorrow. tomorrow, but don't worry, it should all go away before the sunrise so you can enjoy your weekend. And it's time to take a look at today's readings. Well, Seoul and Gwangju will rise to 28 degrees Celsius, that's 82 degrees in Fahrenheit, and afternoon highs in Daegu and Busan will all get up to 29. Now for other spots, it looks like it's gonna be a rainy one for Jeju today, while Daejeon and Dokdo and Mount Kumgang will get up to mid to upper 20s. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all I have for you this week. Hope you have a great weekend, and back to you, Sun and Mark, in the studio.
Thank you very much, Jian, for your wonderful weather report there. And those are the stories we're following at this hour.
Thank you for joining us on this Friday here in Seoul, and we'll be back next Monday at the same time at noon.